Hello, a very good morning. It's 8 o'clock. Coming up on the show today, success for Sir Keir in his meeting with the President last night. But the White House revolving door keeps spinning. President Zelensky due to arrive at 4 p.m. Downing Street, I think, will be delighted with how well it went. It was always going to be this kind of high-wire balancing act between not appearing to be a complete walkover but not antagonising very unpredictable US president. And instead we had this real expression of warmth and friendship. Donald Trump calling him a wonderful man, a special man, praising his accent, talking about the unique friendship between our two countries. It's a big week for the Prime Minister as he prepares to head off to Washington on Thursday for his first meeting with Donald Trump as US president. It's a high-stakes trip at a moment of growing division between Europe and the US, and there are many challenges on the agenda. First up, of course, is standing up for Ukraine, after the US brokered peace talks with the Russians without involving the Ukrainians and even suggested they were to blame for the invasion. Yes, it certainly is. Elon Musk has been increasingly outspoken in his support of Reform UK, but it really has becoming a bit of a double-edged sword for Nigel Farage. Of course, he welcomes the fact that the world's richest man has been going online onto X, the social media platform he owns, of course, bashing the UK government under Sir Keir Starmer, urging his followers to vote for Reform UK. There's talk as well of a multi-million-pound possible donation from him. But where Musk has really opened this huge can of worms is over his backing for Tommy Robinson. It's every parent's worst nightmare. Adam and Kelly's son Harry was hit and killed by a car on the way to school. He was just 14 years old.
We had to make the decision to turn the life support machine off. Harry was in the middle, me and his dad was led side by side, holding him so tight and holding his heartbeat, and we felt the very last beat.
It's quite rare for these kind of backbench 10-minute rule bills to end up becoming actual legislation. But it seems the government has been listening. I understand they're going to adopt the Harry Parker bill as part of the forthcoming road safety strategy as an urgent priority. This border control post was designed to inspect 50,000 lorry loads of goods a year. Physical spot checks on animal and plant products, meat, fish, vegetables, fruit and timber. But Portsmouth isn't the only one. Facilities like this one have been built all over the country, and they're all currently standing empty. Omar's arms are riddled with 250 shotgun pellets, causing him constant pain. He was fired on by the Syrian army at a pro-democracy protest in 2012. And then arrested, imprisoned and tortured.
They took me underground and started beating me, torturing me. They had pipes, thick water pipes, and they used those pipes to beat me with.
The government's strategy to reduce the future backlog is to discourage most asylum seekers from coming to the UK at all through the threat of deportation to Rwanda. Well, that's been blocked in the courts for now. The Prime Minister says he's determined to push ahead.
Grant Shapps is likely to lose his seat.
Yes, indeed. So he's held this seat for 19 years, and during that time he's served in the cabinet of every single Conservative Prime Minister except for Theresa May. Famously, last year he had 5 different cabinet posts, ending up as Defence Secretary. Tayeba Siddiqui escaped her abusive former partner when her son was 1. 10 years later, she still wears a panic alarm.
When I was 32 weeks pregnant, he broke my arm. And there's a 10-inch plate in my hand now. One day he beaten me on the street, jaw broken, nose, and then he was arrested. And after 6 months he came out and he came to my place again.
Good afternoon. The system is broken from end to end. That's the message from the union representing Border Force staff after what was a record day for arrivals on the coast of Kent and Sussex yesterday. 3 migrants are still missing in the English Channel after attempting to make the journey by kayak.
But the industry feel that they're being blamed for a lack of preparedness. There's only 3 months to go. We've still only got 2 lorry parks planned. What more should the government be doing?
Well, we think that there's obviously a huge amount has been done by government to get ready.
Many drivers told me they've been stuck here for days without food, water or access to toilet facilities.
I'm going to Bulgaria with my family and I can't see nothing.
What have people been saying to you? What's happening there? So I'm standing here on the roundabout right outside the port itself, and as you can see behind me, the police are still blocking the road there with hundreds and hundreds of cars, vans and lorries.
In the South East, you've currently got 3 Labour MPs. One of them, Lloyd Russell Moyle, had to apologise recently after saying that the writer J.K. Rowling had been using her experiences of sexual assault to justify discriminating against trans people. So he's on one side of the argument. On the other, we've got Rosie Duffield, who recently said she'd had death threats after being accused of being transphobic. She says women's voices are being silenced and has accused the party of being afraid of raising the issue. Are you afraid of taking a stand on this?
No, I think we've got to improve the situation here. The Gender Recognition Act is a step in the right direction. It doesn't go far enough.
It was the day death thundered down from the sky onto one of the busiest roads in Sussex. 11 men's lives engulfed in a fireball which swept along the dual carriageway.
One doesn't expect to be sitting in a car and a plane come down.
His speed as the plane pitched up was too slow, by at least 20 knots. He then failed to set the throttle to full power. The plane therefore reached the top of the loop at just 2,800 feet, far too low to be able to pull out of the dive safely. The court heard he should have been at least 1,500 feet higher. Boats like this one can travel as fast as 50 miles an hour when they've got few passengers on board. But when they're crammed full of people, they sit very low in the water and have to go much more slowly. In rough conditions, they're completely exposed to the elements and the waves can come crashing inside, filling up with water much more quickly than people can bail them out. The area in between is a buffer zone administered by the United Nations. Here in Nicosia, the capital, it's only around 100 metres or so wide, crossed by a few limited checkpoints. Guarded by soldiers and barbed wire, there are still landmines in places. The abandoned buildings behind me were left as they were at the end of the ceasefire in 1974.
The Bruderhof's promotional material presents an ideal vision of harmonious communal living.
We share our money, possessions, and we try to live our lives like the first Christians.
But some former members say growing up in the Bruderhof has left them badly traumatised.
Something that people dreamed of as being a utopia has just turned into a nightmare.
Carrying deep mental scars.
I thought maybe I was evil, maybe some demons were going to come flying out of me.
And struggling to survive on the outside.
There's been a number of points in my life where I didn't want to carry on living. I was so traumatised and sad.
For 6 years, Darren Turk preyed on vulnerable young boys in his care. While they were raped and abused, the school which should have been protecting them ignored their parents' concerns.
What this monster did to these boys, it could have been stopped.
One family were even threatened with legal action for trying to speak out.
Even to this day, when you come talking to me, I keep thinking, what are they going to do?
But a buried report I've uncovered shows the authorities had known about the allegations for years.
I was treated as if I was a nuisance. My concerns were dismissed.
I tracked down the former headmaster. He didn't want to answer any questions.
Can you please open that door? Can you open that door and just leave it ajar?